So we're going to look at two different replays at Immortal rank of people playing Nature's Prophet. This first one is rank 313, and we're going to compare and contrast their differences to see what we can learn from these players, their differences, similarities. So straight away what we end up seeing them, like very common on players, is this Blightstone. Some people don't like to buy it at lower ranks, and a lot of the reason why is just because they're not utilizing it very well. So here's an example that of something that is just like mechanical skill here of anticipating what Storm is doing. A common thing that Storm Spirits do is they'll walk in aggressively, place down a Remnant, and go for the last hit on the range creep. And the reason why is because they can get harass over onto Nature's Prophet. And as you see, his treants are also moving away. So he's not even taking harass himself on his own hero, and his treants are not taking harass. Now Storm does guarantee to get a last hit on the range creep. However, he is taking a lot of damage here just for that. And he even uses a second Remnant here just to try and get these treants down onto half health. And see how much mana he had to waste there? This hero very heavily relies on his mana to play very aggressive in lane. However, he has ended up buying a bottle here, so this is just being competitive in the harass part of the laning stage. Nature's Prophet has the advantage that if his lane ends up pushing into him, he's able to just tank them with the treants. So Nature's Prophet doesn't need that much regen going into the lane because he can just tank it all with the creeps, and the enemy has to tank it in reverse. So, and you see again here that the creeps are also fortified here, trying to block Storm from pretty much doing anything. We also have a Sprout coming out here, and he's even blocking him with the second set of treants here, and Storm has to walk all the way around. So this is pretty amazing for your lane in general, because now he's level 4, even though Storm is doing pretty well on levels. Storm has bought 5 tangos, he had 2 shared tangos at the start, and he's also gone through his 3 bottle charges. So that's pretty insane that Storm is being forced out of lane from this harass. She ended up forcing Storm Spirit to run back to base, and Nature's Prophet gets to farm freely in lane. His last hits were kind of good, but not the best. You know, for an Immortal player, they probably want to do a little bit better in some scenarios, but because Storm Spirit can heal up so easily, it might not have been the best idea to do that. But you'll end up seeing that he checks his camera regularly into the other lanes when something aggressive is happening, and he pretty much comes here to ensure that this kill on CM, only level 2 support, not really the most valuable kill, but what you'll end up seeing, that he denies the rune from the enemy, picks it up himself. As well as that, what I really want to showcase here is how he doesn't spam his ultimate once he reaches level 6, just so he can farm. He actually holds onto it for about 40 seconds afterwards, and you notice here that he's just right clicking Storm. He's reducing his armor and making it harder for him. Now, I'll slow this down to half speed because I really want to highlight this. Once the ultimate is bouncing around, he checks to see what Terrorblade's health is, and only like half a second, a quarter of a second or whatever, just checking the health to see if he wants to go and gank. Now he does see that his teammates are diving pretty well, and he saw earlier from when he was diving or going for the CM that he was able to see that they were struggling on this lane on bottom. The enemy safe lane was struggling, so they pretty much just take a pretty favorable fight. Storm is kind of running out of mana at this stage, and they just end up picking up a kill here on Terrorblade. Nothing really impressive, just right clicks, but it's just a really good position here. Now he farms a little bit, and straight away he goes back into the mid lane, and he's gonna teleport in here. Now in this scenario, you would think, okay, this is a really bad teleport, they're just gonna jump on you, Storm's gonna jump, Pango's gonna jump on you. But what a lot of players don't realize is that, look at the Storm's mana, it's a 0 right now, pretty much 0. He has no stick charges, and this Pango is level 2 at 7 minutes. Like, how are they going to be able to do anything? Pretty much impossible. And even luckily, Nature's Prophet like comes in, and the Pango wasted his only mobility spell in the game. So now both of them are pretty much stuck here, and they almost end up picking up a kill here. And if these were slightly worse players, that would have easily been a kill if they committed like maybe 10 centimeters further. Well, 10 centimeters depends on how big your monitor is. You must have a giga giant monitor, 50-inch. So Nature's Prophet is teleported back to the fountain to heal up on his mana, really just to go for another kill again. He ends up looking around with his camera into different places. He knows that he sees Terrorblade here in the jungle, which the Treant Protector is scouting out, and he also sees CM bottom pretty much on her own, and Timber Saw is like down here and pretty much dying as well. So this opens up his opportunity to be able to go here onto the CM and pretty much pick up a pretty straightforward kill. He right clicks her first once he jumps in, and then he sprouts her after that first right click, and then just pretty much right clicks and treants attacking her and gets a kill. And that's just really good awareness about what's going on in the map. So now we're looking at rank 64 Nature's Prophet, and he ends up getting 2 treants right at the start of the game. Before he even buys his items, he sends them down mid lane and pretty much places one to the left hand side and right hand side of the mid lane so that he can end up seeing someone placing down an observer ward. You'll also notice how he uses his Nature's Call, which is the treant, spawning the treants in the fountain. So he'll always have full mana when he's going to the lane at the start, rather than standing outside of the fountain and then using it. This is something that, like, I would assume the majority of people know, but there's definitely going to be some people who don't know that that's a thing who are watching this video. So anyways, he uses these 2 other treants that have a good bit of time left on them to scout the lane and kind of zone out from the rune. So pretty much this ends up being a safe lane Nature's Prophet. You'll also see that he has the Blightstone like the previous one, and you'll have a very favorable position with this block at the start. The range creep dies first. However, we'll end up seeing now that there's a lot of focus on harass here. This enemy lane, where it's Venge and Pango, is quite weak in the 3 to 7 minute period if they don't have mana, or if they really are struggling on items and health regen. So they're kind of dependent on that. So harassing them right now kind of ends up giving them a little bit of an advantage, like Nature's Prophet an advantage in this lane. And Nature's Prophet also combines pretty well with Clockwork support, just solely because Clockwork kind of would prefer to have a ranged carry who can attack from the edge of the cogs. This is just something pretty small, but it can help in team fights later on. But you end up seeing that Pango has even a hard time to just kill these treants on his own with right clicks. He really relies on using Swashbuckle to burst them, and instead he's using Swashbuckle to try and get last hits here instead. And these treants are pretty tanky, and you see with the armor reduction kicking in too, it really forced him to have a hard time pretty much against Nature's Prophet in lane. But you don't want to overly spend too much time harassing, because if you constantly just right click this Pango over and over again, you're going to miss some last hits. So it's important to balance both of them nicely. So they try and go for a kill here. If they were slightly worse players, you know, ancient players like that, would have probably been a kill there on Pango and wouldn't have healed back up. Now we end up seeing kind of a blunder or mistake here in a couple of seconds. If we have a look at Pango's screen, the Pango ends up chasing over here, and he's cutting the creep wave, but Nature's Prophet ends up letting his courier come through here, and he never spotted his own courier and ends up dying here. Now Pango ends up cutting the creep wave, pulling it around here. Nature's Prophet doesn't really have much of a problem with losing his creeps, because guess what he ends up doing? He just tanks them with his treants. Pretty straightforward for a Nature's Prophet player, but this is something that, you know, kind of smart to utilize this sort of stuff. If you're not someone who's used to summons heroes, this is definitely something that you want to kind of think about. Now we see a little bit of harass coming out here, and Clockwork shows himself, yet Pango decides a couple of seconds later to go and swashbuckle the creep wave. Once he swashbuckles, this is where you can go and start play aggressive. He doesn't have a good escape anymore. Sometimes he has his second spell skilled at this point on level 3, but even if at this point that Pango has this shield crash and he jumps out, I don't know what the exact interaction is. Even if he jumps out, he's going to burn a huge amount of mana here just by using the shield crash, plus the cogs bursting him as well. And he has some, like, kind of, I would say, a somewhat bizarre build as well. He's kind of getting punished for this as well. So now it's coming up to 5 minutes and the runes are about to spawn. Pango is pulling the creep wave here yet again because he's kind of struggling in lane. The Clockwork is on the rune here, however, and the Nature's Prophet is keeping aware of it. So this is Nature's Prophet's view now. The Pango has used his swashbuckle. He doesn't have an escape now yet again, and he ends up sprouting him. And they know now that he hasn't shield crash skilled because he pretty much would have used it by now. And they get a pretty decent amount of damage. Now they end up kind of just tanking the creep wave, yet Nature's Prophet is out of mana, and he kind of just brought his courier got him his treads, and they're pretty much farming behind the tower. But this is kind of a little bit overkill. If the Nature's Prophet had more mana somehow, maybe a mango that was brought to him, that could have been a kill, but I think that's a little bit of a stretch to think that that's a good idea to go and dive so hard there. So we end up seeing that there was a kind of a fight there, and it ended up kind of breaking away here, and he ends up staying top. But what you'll end up noticing that he still has his teleport. He's actually maxed out his teleport before his other spells. He hides in the trees, teleports back to the fountain to get some extra mana, and straight away what he ends up doing is teleporting behind the fight, and then he changes his mind and teleport over near CM. Now you'll see that his cursor is right over CM. He ends up silenced here instantly when he teleports in, and you also notice that he's on the low ground. And the reason why he was on the low ground is because if you see Timbersaw doesn't have any trees to hook onto for him to be able to damage Nature's Prophet, and that's really the hero that he wants to kind of stay away from. And as well as this, he's able to kind of catch them off in the river. Now the disadvantage of going here is that Storm could potentially jump on you, but with Nature's Prophet, it's like you have so much teammates around you, the Storm can't really burst you, especially if the Treant uses living armor on you. So we end up seeing Storm is up here on top, and a lot of the enemy team has pretty much just been controlling the top left corner of the map, roughly, and the Radiant has taken down the bottom left corner. Now you see Nature's Prophet teleports over here and silences the Storm Spirit, and Storm ends up trying to teleport out here. However, Nature's Prophet has picked up a clumsy net, which can now cancel the teleport, and he can capitalize upon this as well with the lasso as well. Now, just so you have a look here, if we have a look at Storm's perspective here, it ends up being quite interesting, because even though Nature's Prophet seemed like he was kind of in vision of the enemy, Storm can't see this. And just out of nowhere, Nature's Prophet comes and you're silenced and you don't even get a chance to react. So that was a really nice concept. That a lot of the top Nature's Prophet players are using this, like even kind of lower ranks as well. But this is something that you definitely want to be utilizing in your games. Now he doesn't end up getting this tower, and instead what he decides before 10 minutes, which is a slightly slower paced game because it's instead of a mid lane Nature's Prophet, he's on carry. So he's decided to go in here and he's like, oh hell no, I'm out of here. I went in too deep. So he doesn't even go for the courier, he's just like bailing out. He's out of here. He doesn't want to go anywhere near Pugna until he has his whatchamacallit, the Orchid, and the Pugna is the mid laner, so Pugna has a pretty decent amount of damage. So the Nature's Prophet decides to teleport here to try and help his Death Prophet, and Pugna is going for the good suck, and they even use Swap and Will-O-Wisp, and pretty much 3 ultimates there for Nature's Prophet. And it's not really a huge amount of, like, you can't predict that everyone's gonna use like 3 ultimates on you for a kill. But so when Nature's Prophet respawns, he comes and takes this bottom tower. This is just so you can control the bottom right corner of the map. Now straight after that, Nature's Prophet has decided to go mid lane and push down that tower too, because the enemy is not interested in defending it. So during this time, Pango has pretty much just been playing aggressive here, and Nature's Prophet sees this as well. The counterplay that the enemy team did was the Pango pushed down the top tier 1 tower, and the Naga has just been farming in the jungle. Now Pugna is coming here into their vision, and they can pretty much just end up slowing Pugna and doing damage here. And we have a nicely timed silence in here, but they are getting caught here from the other heroes coming from the south part or the bottom part of the camera, and they end up trying to just go even further onto this and keep chasing. Now Nature's Prophet decides to go in hella deep, even though he has vision of this, and like there's wards as well, you can see where the enemy is. He ends up teleporting in to get instantly disarmed. He gets stunned as well by this as well, but the Pugna ends up buying back, and the Pugna ends up doing the good suck. And Nature's Prophet pretty much has a hard time to dance around this. Every spell is being used on him, like like the rest of his team is just gonna clean up from this as well. So it's 15 minutes now, and he ended up picking up an Orchid, and straight away he's looking to use it. We have Pango doing the mirrored play, where the Nature's Prophet is taking the tier 1 tower and the Pango is taking the tier 1 tower at the opposite lane. And we have Grimstroke coming in with a silence first, and instead of wasting his Orchid so early and having them stacked on top of each other, they chain them one after the other, and this Pango pretty much has no chance to escape. So Pango is generally a hero that ends up farming a lot if you kind of leave him alone and is just farming the side. So now there's a team fight about to break out. His team are running into the enemy jungle, and Nature's Prophet kind of just teleports into the back. He was probably just going to go onto CM, but he ends up using the Orchid instead onto the Pango, which ended up cancelling his ultimate before the animation went through. Now Pango still has his ultimate available but dies, so pretty much Pango didn't get his ultimate off there, and they just end up getting three actually pretty easy kills there. And they're much stronger than the enemy team right now, but a lot of that has come from pretty much just like good control of the map. Like a lot of the time the Nature's Prophet has been farming on the bottom part of the lane and really not giving the enemy much of a chance. Now on top of this, he ends up capitalizing on this further, trying to really pressure this Terrorblade. Terrorblade is forced to constantly carry around a Quelling Blade just so that he can deal with this Sprout, and also having to use his Manta just trying to get away here. And they continuously just chase him here, and he really can't do much about this. And this is just pretty much started off really by the fact that Nature's Prophet can teleport in globally. And Nature's Prophet has actually ended up teleporting again behind the tier 2. He uses his Sprout to get Vision of Storm and continues on a silence of this. So if there's ever a hero in the trees, you know, you want to really be utilizing your Sprout to be able to see those there. So I picked up 2 kills on the core, pretty much a full team wipe there over the space of a minute or so. So now we're going back to replay A, and we're going to be looking at from 20 minutes and onwards. So we see that Storm Spirit is farming here. He ended up getting hit by Nature's Prophet's ultimate, and we end up seeing Storm pretty much just running through the trees and wasting Nature's Prophet's time. But pretty much what Nature's Prophet is trying to do is find solo kills onto someone. He ends up finding Pango. He teleports in, silences Pango with the Orchid, and then Pango yules himself to dispel it. Pango then gets hit by Clumsy Net as well. Pretty much they just find the kill there pretty easily. Now they also have a BKB ready 10 seconds on Gyrocopter. This is where they go fight as 5 and run mid. The reason why now they're winning fights so convincingly is if we have a look at the gold graph, we end up seeing that it's spiking towards their end, and they've really just been picking up lots of kills. As you see here, the red dots all here are all deaths on the Dire side. Pretty much getting 2 to 3 team fights that you're winning very convincingly is turning into wins. So this is pretty much a straightforward, they pick off Storm who jumped too far one time, and now they're going for another fight. This is pretty much the last fight, the Hail Mary chance for the Dire side to come back and fight. However, there is some mechanical stuff that I want to look at here that kind of just shows that those little bit of a difference regardless of whether the items are there or not. So we have Terrorblade here. He ends up getting decrepified just when he uses his Metamorphosis, and now he's stunned. Also, he's sprouted. He uses his BKB, but he still has to hold on to that Quelling Blade just so that he can break the Sprout. And Nature's Prophet is still just right clicking him back here. And now he's trying to get away. The Terrorblade is, and he gets sprouted a second time, and he has to use that Quelling Blade again and get this. Terrorblade has no chance. So now we're on to replay B, and we're going to be looking at the 20 minutes and onwards. So we're here at 23 minutes, and we see that they're going into Roshan. We have a BKB now on Nature's Prophet, and they're after finding a pick off on Pango just prior to this, and they pick up Aegis that's uncontested. They kill Aegis pretty quickly, and just one thing that if you're someone who doesn't know this about Nature's Prophet, teleporting into the trees where the enemy can't see you is a good idea, because otherwise you show up on the minimap, and if you do need to get out of the trees, you're stuck somewhere, you can end up breaking them with Nature's Call and go and push the creep wave straight after that. So the age is going to run out pretty soon. Pango went in and did an ult, maybe trying to catch someone off guard. He actually went in a little bit too early, I think, but the Nature's Prophet ends up using his BKB plus an Orchid onto the Pugna, picking off the Pugna early. The Pugna buys back, and the reason why he goes for the Pugna is because not only is he the mid hero who has a pretty decent amount of damage, but he's a spellcaster. He wants to use spells constantly throughout, and those are the ones that really do damage in a team fight and pick one of your teammates off, or even yourself. So making sure the Orchid gets out onto him was pretty much the highest value target there. And Pugna was kind of out of position as well, which was also kind of capitalized upon that extra like bad, that advantage that Nature's Prophet has right now in his kit. So the Aegis now runs out 20-30 seconds after the team fight ends. So now another 7 minutes later, the next Roshan is kind of starting. We have Clockwork, who got swapped in. And really the reason why the game is going on longer than this is because of Naga. She's really making a hard time for the Nature's Prophet to even push it back. And this is what's forced him to end up buying a Mulnir, really just to get all those creep waves pushed back. Now, his teammates have pretty much got picked off here, and I think a third one ends up getting picked off here. There's not really much he can do, so it's a good idea that he backed off here and didn't die, because the enemy would kind of just take it further, and this is where he can go and maybe just play aggressive somewhere else, maybe force someone to try and teleport back and kill him, and like he can just escape no problem. My Nature's Prophet is black! What the hell? Why is my Nature's Prophet black? What the hell? He's gone Super Saiyan. Oh, this is the time to go. Let's go. So we have a team fight. This one's gonna make or break the game. And whatever this Nature's Prophet ends up deciding to do is really up to him. So he goes in, he's going on to the Vengeful Spirit here first. So the Vengeful Spirit already used her stun. And notice how he's not using his BKB. He's pretty much holding onto it until someone commits some spell onto him. And pretty much the Death Prophet, who has a good bit of damage, ends up dying near the start of the fight. Now, once Pango jumps in, he Orchids him and presses his BKB. And pretty much here he's picked up also these wand charges, up to 18 wand charges now. The Naga goes down with the Aegis. They also have Cheese, which is also on the Naga as well. And we'll see here the Nature's Prophet pretty much getting chain stunned over and over and over again by the Pango. He does, however, get out a Greater Fairy Fire charge there. And pretty much even the Sprout can save him from Pango's ult. And right now we have what's called a lot of armor on this guy. He has the AC plus an 8 armor talent. And we end up seeing this Naga can't even clench through this armor whatsoever. We have the wand charges coming out as well as the Greater Fairy Fire charge. Even Pugna's good suck isn't enough for this Naga. And we have this guy taking like literally no damage from Naga whatsoever, it seems like, because he just has so much armor. He right clicking away, so he just teleports back to base, just getting a quick heal up, and then he'll use his teleportation spell to go back and push the wave. So this is pretty much what allowed him to win the fight. 3 Fairy Fire charges, a 1, and using them all together in the right time, because those Greater Fairy Fire charges, he's been holding on to them for a while, and he used them all in one really crucial team fight. There's no point to holding on to them for later, because there won't be later. The game's gonna end. So hopefully you learned or enjoyed something about this video. If you did and you want to see more Dota content like this, make sure you subscribe.